Yeah, happy to have Stephen Mallon today show us his exhibition, solo show at the National Museum of Industrial History. Looks really awesome. That museum, I have never been there, but I'm glad to view it at least now virtually. And his show right now is called Machines of Interest. So I have known Stephen Mallon for a long time, and he has generously donated every year to our fundraiser. We have already sold his piece this year, but there's many others still available. I will put a link in the chat later. But yeah, we are really super happy that you continue donating and supporting us and everything. And love your work. Anyway, so then also I want to introduce Daniel Aycock from the Frontroom Gallery. Stephen Mallon is an artist with the Frontroom Gallery. And right now there's actually a show online at the Frontroom Gallery where I'm part of. So you can also that.
We've been showing Steve for more than 10 years now.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So I just, I wanna give the floor to Steve and Daniel, and please, I also want to say, so the way we're gonna do this, we are thinking that everybody should listen during the presentation and during the time we guide you through the show. Please put all the questions already in the chat if you like, or keep them in your head. And then in the end, like after like half an hour or something, we will open it up for Q&A.
And I'm going to drive us through the virtual museum while Steve explains everything. So right now I will share the screen so everybody can see it. This is the museum.
So yeah, so this is the opening entrance to it. Thank you all for joining us on this virtual tour. I'm really psyched that we're able to all kind of like walk through this space while sitting on our couches and not being worried about anything. So yeah, so there are a number of different projects included in this exhibition. Just to give a little bit of background, I got introduced to the museum about 1.5 years ago. One of their staff members was actually in the audience of one of the talks I did last year, and suggested that I go down and meet with their curator there. And that sounded like a great idea to me. And so went down and showed them this body of work, and they liked the idea. And originally this was going to be planned for 2021, but the show that was going to be in between was going to be a much more hands-on experience. And so when we started talking about what was going on in the world and everything, would you be available to bump this up to this year? And I was like, yeah, it's like nothing was going on. So it was, so here we are. So this is one of the aluminum bales that I've photographed. I've got an ongoing project on the recycling industry that has been fueling a number of projects for almost 15 years now. And that image, if we get back.
Kate did that, by the way. Kate came and messed up my screen.
Drove you into a wall.
Uh-huh. Okay. What?
So this,
I can't back up.
Yeah, so this is a 40 by 60 inch print of, it's aluminum siding that's all been collected at a recycling plant in Grand Rapids, Michigan. the company's named Padnos, and I got introduced to them actually kind of through you, Monica, and Hubert in Miami, because Parlamento runs another nonprofit organization down they're called Site Lab, where they do pop-up art installations and exhibitions. And he liked the work and then invited me out to have a brief residency to document a house move of another artist that they were working with, and set it all up. And I wanted to shoot a little bit of personal work at the same time. Got down there to shoot the house move, and a permit fell through and we weren't able to move the house. But I did have all of this other stuff already set up to go shoot. And so I spent the entire time working on my stuff other than the film for them. And that project ended up getting funded by the NEA, which was fantastic.
And there's, what's not Train in the Sky? What's the train, the title of the one, the train hanging over the doorway?
Believe that is Mind the Gap.
Yeah, interesting installation there. About to crush people who walk under it. So should I go into the larger room? Oh, there's another one from that project, right?
Yeah. So this is like the beginning of this recycling project. This is actually I think the only photograph in the show that was actually shot on film.
4x5, right?
This is 4x5, yeah. And I'm standing up on top of the bale this time. And we're in a recycling plant on Shelter Island in New York.
And this it's very sharp because it's shot with a 4x5, and it is 40 by 50 inches. So it's hard to tell on the screen how big it is, but it's pretty big.
Yeah.
Okay, do you have a preference on where to start here, Steve?
Why don't we start here? So here, this is a nice combination of two different projects. These are both ship-based projects, both shot in Philadelphia, but at very different times and different projects. The ship on the left is the SS United States, which I was commissioned to shoot for National Geographic in 2016. And then we had a solo show of this work at Frontroom later that year. And that was just a phenomenal, phenomenal project. And the image—
Best ocean liner in history.
Yep. Partially funded through the US government as a covert troop carrier in case we had to go into a ground war in Europe. The propellers were classified for like decades after the ship went out of service. But fortunately, they didn't have to do that. And it is now wet docked in Philadelphia. And there's an organization that is run by the granddaughter of the original engineer that designed the ship. And they're trying to find a home for it so it can become either an event space or a ship actually again.
And in the meanwhile, they're paying like $30,000 a month just to keep it docked, right?
Yeah, it's insane. That joke that everyone—
From that one that you want me to go at while we're talking about this one?
Yeah, let's go take a look at the dry dock.
Dry dock.
Yep.
But dry dock's not part of that series, though.
It is not. But I do like the pairing of the two ships next to it, or the two like ship-based imagery next to each other. This was shot when I was photographing another ship that was actually being prepped to be sunk to be another artificial reef, the USS Radford. And so this is one of the functional dry docks in the Navy Yard in Philadelphia.
And strangely enough, there's a watery hole with a ladder coming out of it.
I've always
Right in the
been
bottom
wondering whose office is down there, you know?
Yeah. Okay, we'll move along.
So this is actually, yeah, there's a video actually there. I don't think I want to play it right now, but you can all go watch it another time. It's a time-lapse film that I produced about the delivery of the Willis Avenue Bridge. And then these are 2 more 40 by 60s of my other artificial reef project, Next Up Atlantic. This is where New York City put over 2,000 subway cars in the Atlantic over the span of 10 years. And I shot this from 2008 to 2010. The image, both these images were shot in Inwood in their yard in 2009, remember correctly. The one at the bottom has been shown in a number of different exhibitions. The one up above was found when I had the show at the Transit Museum and at their gallery in Grand Central last year, because they were looking for work that hadn't been shown too much. And I just love this image. Like there's a lot of glare on it right now because of the camera that they used, but there's like 4 cars all stacked back to back with the snow coming in. And it's both of these images are some of my favorites for the color.
Yeah, there's a lot of, it's strange, a lot of like kind of woodsy colors that you don't associate with subway cars. Like all these browns and earth tones. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna move on to something that's not woodsy at all. Let's see if I can get a better angle.
Too close.
Is it still too close?
Are we talking about the claw?
Yeah. Hold on a second. I'm gonna step backwards.
And now rotate. And now go.
Zoom in a little.
I think so, yes.
Yeah, this is a little.
There we go. That's
right.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I can't remember. Did we finally identify what kind of car that was?
We talked about it. We were trying to figure out if it was a Pontiac or a Ford.
Yeah.
So this is my homage to Pixar. Title of the piece is The Claw. One of the
Toy Story.
I think everybody on here gets that, right? Oh, Sasha's letting me know she doesn't get it. Okay. So some of us got it. Yeah, this was also at Grand Rapids. I ended up back there in 2018 on assignment covering the life cycle of a car. And so I was able to get access back by the relationships I had with Padnos and added this to the collection. This is like the other side of my photography in a sense, where I'm really attracted to like abstracting violent recycling. Similar to the images of the subway cars going into the ocean and the photographs on the interior of the ships that I photograph. I mean, there's a lot of identifiable objects in this, but with just the metal and the blown out sky behind it, I find it still very painterly, even though there's a lot more action going on in the image.
That particularly series had some things that seem, that one too, kind of apocalyptic for you.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a dark moment, but beautiful.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna move on to, oh yeah, talking about the abstraction. Actually, these might be even better if I can get to them.
Push that down.
The dot is not gonna work, Kate. Okay, is it too big for everybody?
Yes.
Oh, I can't get it to zoom out. All right, I'm gonna turn around and walk backwards a little bit. How's that?
That's good.
Maybe it's a little more.
You click in once.
Okay. I was just going to look at the bottle tops, which you were talking about abstraction.
So yeah, so this was one of the, sorry, what are you going to say?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this one, all these pieces together really kind of, there's a little glare on it. It's hard to tell. And it's not the best view of it, but they kind of make up this whirlpool of bottle caps. It's very strange. Tabs.
Yeah, apparently the technical term for these is UBC. And I thought that these were rejects off of an assembly line, but somebody said to me that it's possible that they had to separate these actually at the plant or the recycling because the metal is more dense than the actual cans. So I'm gonna have to find out about that from Panos at some point. But again, this is just the repetition of form and scale in this image is one of the other things that I really get attracted to.
Do you have any idea why there's a hole in the middle of it?
Well, I have it in my head that there's like a thing that it was like being shot off of, you know?
Uh-huh.
This bin is the size of a pallet, right? You know, it's like those nylon bags that are like 3 cubic yards.
Mm-hmm.
And so in my mind, there was just a waste bin next to a processing line, and it was just getting shot off by like some, you know, belt or air system that was just spewing it out. But again, that's my head, not necessarily true.
Yeah, that's your story and you're sticking to it.
Exactly.
Okay, and the one below is it's similar to the one that we saw earlier on, where it's a bale of paper, right? Or is
no,
it
this is aluminum siding. Yeah, this is
siding.
all metal. So this is where your house went to die.
Mm-hmm.
I've just always loved both of the images. I think there's a strong play between the two where they are stacked together versus the single bale being photographed.
Mm-hmm. And next to that is, let's see if I can get over there. It's this crazy one.
Yeah.
And that is, again, the fastest ocean liner in history. 1972, right? Steve?
Sure. I don't remember the exact year. I do know that it is. It holds the speed record for crossing between New York and Paris. Was it Paris or London?
And it was like 3 days, right?
Something crazy. Yes, and it's also faster in reverse than the Titanic was going forward.
Wow. And you can really see how it was built kind of for speeds. It's so vertical.
Yeah, it's like a blade. It's really, it was designed to like get through the water as fast as possible. There's an image not in this show, but of the engine room, and it's titled 110,000 horsepower because that was how much horsepower the steam engines were generating.
Amazing. Okay, so I'm gonna move on to one of your iconic photos, Weeks 297.
Yeah, so this image was plastered all over New York City subways last year for the Transit Museum show. It's from 2008. It was one of the first images that I shot of this project. I'm shooting from a crew boat. We had just arrived at the barge and let the guys that are going to be operating the excavator get up and then start disattaching all the steel cables that are there to keep the cars from falling off while it's being towed out to the sea. There's a tugboat connected to this thing, but it's out of the frame.
Was this the same day that you shot the other one with the wave coming up all the way over them?
No, that was a different day. That was the day that everybody lost their breakfast.
Yeah, even the seasoned professional.
Yeah, they almost called it off. It was so shocking. There's an image of this barge, getting encased in a wave.
Yeah, and you think it's like 3 stories tall. It's like the barge plus 2 levels of subway cars. It's pretty big.
Yeah. One of the things I learned on this project is not to try to edit or review your photographs on the back of your camera after having a bacon, egg, and cheese in a boat.
All right, I'm gonna move along.
On that note,
Yeah, see if I can get a good one of this. There's a little bit of glare there.
Yep.
Maybe I'll skip that one and we'll go over to the trains.
Okay.
So this is your new series. And we had one show of it in the galleries, but it's an ongoing project. You want to tell us a little about where and how?
This is Passing Freight. These are photographs of active freight lines throughout the US. Every single one of these cars was actually in transit when I shot them. They were moving. They were moving, yeah. California.
And they look like they're still.
Yep. So I'm really entranced by the whole aspect of finding these objects and locations at the same time, because there's really never going to be another moment where they come together like this. So, you know, just the lighting on this image that's in the center here, and the, you know, the shrubbery around it and everything is just that, again, I'm drawn to the texture, I'm drawn to the engineering, I'm drawn, you know, there's so many things going on in here that keep me engaged.
Well, and the hints of the landscape behind, you know, there's, I mean, definitely all these different regions you see in it, but there's, you know, you're not seeing that much, but you're seeing mountains, you're seeing eastern hills, western hills, snow. It really gives you a feel for the transit of the trains themselves. Okay, so the caboose there, one of my favorites. So you were saying, Steve, that you have a mask in the gift store made from this image?
Yeah, so there's a gift store that has now gone live with a bunch of their work. It's in the chat.
This is a gear pile on where?
This is Grand Rapids, Michigan, and this is the same residency in 2016. It got to the point that they felt comfortable and trusted me enough that they were pretty much just like, you know, close the door when you leave. So I was able to wait for the sun to go down to the point where the light just got that nice, the golden hour.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, I think they should trust you. It's not like you're doing an expose on them. Your work about the recycling is generally positive. You know?
I find people, you know, even if I've got a good, you know, history with other people, it still takes a little bit of time, you know, with strangers for them to realize that I'm not going to be doing anything stupid. I'm not going to go up into the excavator and start it up to see what I can do. Tempting as
well, you can't say you wouldn't maybe do that.
There were no cameras.
All
I got to say. And I thought that was a recyclable car.
Okay, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get a good angle on Pool here.
Maybe not.
I'll try and go back. I feel like I'm driving an excavator myself right now.
Yeah, how many of you had so far? That's pretty good. But it's a 40 by 60. It's actually like a pretty sizable print. You don't get a lot of, you know, scale because there's not much to reference from it. But
that license plate is well, on that it's like the size of one of those mini license plates, right? I mean, the flag is like the size of a little mini license plate.
Right.
I don't know if I can zoom in. Nope. All right. Well, do you want me to go to the gift store?
Yeah.
Okay. It's down this way.
It's virtual. You gotta go to the link.
Oh, okay. So the link.
Link was in the chat.
You said that, but I didn't get what you were talking about at that point. Okay. Yeah. You can keep talking while I'm trying to do this.
So yeah, so I just I'm really excited about how the show turned out. We had a a small-ish reception at the museum when the show opened due to the current environment, but hoping that things will calm down enough in the spring to have a little bit of a bigger gathering to celebrate it.
Well, and the show is open for a while too.
Yeah, it's up until March, and it might go a little bit further. We'll see.
Okay, here we are. I was hoping to be able to walk into the gift store this way, but
that would have been really cool if we had. There it is. Yeah. So if you click on the shop now. So the museum has a bunch of these memorabilia, basically through I think it was Shopify. Click on the models.
Models?
Yeah, if you scroll down a little bit, up, like go to the gear pile mask.
Yeah. Wait, gear pile mask. There it is. Yeah. Yep. What we have here is what is known as art product.
And then if you scroll down a little bit, Daniel.
Oh, yeah. And you have some handsome people modeling.
Exactly.
Mask on. Yeah. And how much is it? $8.50 a bargain.
Right? You can read through your own recycling.
Mm-hmm. Nice. What else do we have? The tote bag. Very cool.
I like the tote bag.
What's this?
Bless you.
Oh, it's a laptop for putting your laptop in.
Yep.
And I also might mention that your actual photos are for sale at our gallery. Anybody interested, they can contact me later on.
Or even during this, we might be willing to get off the call.
I'll give you a deal if we do it live on Zoom.
Right? We can watch you close the show.
Yeah.
Well, should we open it up for some questions?
It seems like that would make sense. You ready for questions, Steve?
I think so.
Does anybody from the audience, if anybody here in our audience wants to actually ask the questions, feel free to put in the chat, or also just unmute yourself and ask. That is totally fine. If we all can be civilized, then I think we can do that.
I might point out that Steve has a lot of interesting stories about taking almost each of these photos. And when you get him started, it's pretty good.
Yeah, then the problem is getting me to stop.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so what is a good story? Tell us one. Just one short one. Like the subway cars seem to be.
Yeah, Steve, why don't you say how you got started? Oh, not the subway cars, but how you got started with Flight 1549?
Well, it's my relationship with Weeks Marine began because of the subway cars. I was out shooting a portrait in New Jersey and had already started the project on the subway cars, and then when I saw the barge loaded up there, I went up to the guard at the at the gate, and I was like, "What is that?" And it was like, "Oh, that's the MTA's Artificial Reef Project." And I was like, "Really? And it might be interesting coming to photograph that." I was like, "Well, I'm just a guard here." It's like, "Yeah, I know." And so I showed them the existing work that I had already shot, and they liked the sound of it. And then they sent it to the MTA, and the MTA, the guy that was running it was this wonderful gentleman named Mike Zakia. And he was also interested in getting positive coverage for it. And so they led me into the yard, up onto the barge, onto the crane, and then I would just meet up with them with the crew boat, because the tugboat itself is like 4 knots an hour. It's pretty slow. So they didn't want to have to pay the time for the guys that operate the excavator to go down with the tugboat. So they would like drive down the morning of or the night before, and then we would get on this other little boat to meet up with them out in the water. And we would just bump up to the barge, and it was like 2 or 3 of them, and they would climb up this ladder that's welded into the sides of the barge. And like I said, start disconnecting the cables to keep the cars in place, and they start up the excavator because it takes a few minutes for the hydraulics to get online. And then I would be alone in the boat with the captain, and I was able to, position myself based on the lighting and get the angles that I wanted. It was sometimes a little frustrating because they would unload left, right to keep the balance. And I would like run over to the right-hand side and miss it, and then run back to the left and miss it. But piece by piece, got it under control. And
well, and over the time you spent with them, you got comfortable enough to where you could say, "Hey guys, can you drop that subway car really hard in the water and make a big splash?" And they're like, "Yeah," right?
That was one of the last drops. It's not in this show, but it was. I had a lot of images of the cars going like this, and I needed some diversity. I kind of needed a new change, so I asked them, "Can you, possibly change the angle a little bit?" And they're like, "Yeah, no problem." And so they picked it up, and they just picked it up instead of picking it up in the center, they picked it up at like one end, and then just like gave the excavator a little bit of a kick, and it was like they were like flicking a cigarette butt, but it went in like face first. And so the shot is the car, going into the water. Here, let me see. I'll just pull it up real quick.
Yeah, and I mean, you've been going out with them for like a year, right? Several years at that point. They were pretty comfortable with you being there, right?
Yeah. They still, there was a few things that I wasn't allowed to do. So that's the image. Yes. It immediately after that flung back and hit the barge. And I was like, "Oh shit." They're like, "It happens all the time. Don't worry about it."
Well, it's not like you could go hide. You would be on the barge anyway.
Yeah.
So did you ever go back and look at these subway cars? I mean, they're probably really deep in the ocean, right? I mean, it's not easy to see, but did anybody ever go back and see how they are now, how they look now in the water, or how it actually really?
Yeah, the Parks Department are the people that actually paid for this, because it was designed for wreck diving and also for for fish habitats. Excuse me. And so the older redbirds, which I only caught a couple of, have survived and stayed more intact, but like the crustaceans and all of that has built up nicely. These cars, like this generation, the bolts that they used to put it together all degraded relatively quickly, and they just like popped open. Mm-hmm. So it's not they weren't as structurally long lasting for wreck diving, but it still put a lot of surface area and for like smaller creatures to like hide under.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Actually, there is a couple of questions now in the chat. One is, tell us a bit. Tell us about the camera groupies. That's what Andrew.
camera groupies, this is a bunch of different cameras, but mostly Canon 5DS and the 1DS Mark III. Bunch of different Canon lenses, 24 to 70, 17 to 40, 16 to 35, 70 to 100 to 8, Toyo 4x5. Trying to think what else is in this show.
Oh, I have a question along those lines that people might find interesting. So when you're setting up for the trains, the newest series, you set yourself up with a whole bunch of potential problems for photographing, because you want it to be as sharp as possible, as you would with any photo, but you want these trains to actually be moving, and they have to be right in the frame, right when you get them. So you take your tripod out and you set it the distance you want it to be, and then what do you do? Like, how do you manage to make them look like they're not moving? And what are the problems you're confronting with that? It's like a photographic conundrum.
So yeah, so I figured out the distance of the length of these cars, and with the lenses that I have, how far away I have to be from the train tracks. So I find these locations where I can back off about 30 feet away from the tracks. Gives me enough room edge to edge to shoot the entire cars. And I have to find places where there's no fencing and like no trees or anything to obscure the vision from where the lens is. And then I'm shooting just at a super high shutter speed. These are usually shooting at like 1/16 of a 1/1600th of a second to stop the cars edge to edge.
I have to point out, since you have this one up, that you admitted that you altered this composition.
I did put one of the wooden blocks back up. Those are my footprints in the snow. It was bothering me.
No Photoshop, just walked out in the snow and put the thing back up.
Exactly.
You're a purist.
Yes, but I am breaking one of the sacred rules of photography. I am cropping the frame to the not proportional rate of how this was shot.
You're breaking it in a big way. You're cropping it in half.
So, photo gods, please forgive me.
So there's another question from Alex. If you could just talk a little bit more about getting to the sites, accessing the various physical locations. The images are mesmerizing, but I want more backstory.
So a number of these projects have been kind of approached as assignments, or have been actual assignments. Like this commission from National Geographic came up because I went down there to propose the work just in general. And it turned out that one of the editors in the room remembered that one of their staff writers traveled on this ship when he was a child. And so he had a very personal connection. And so we were able to go down onto the ship and meet with the executive director. And like, he was there on the first day walking around with both of us to just, talk about it. And he was like describing what he remembered from being on the ship.
When we had that show, there were so many people that came in that had been on that ship.
Yeah,
it was really amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it would have been it was a luxury ocean liner, and people were actually traveling from the US to Europe on it. And then airplanes became more popular and they docked it.
Yep. I mean, this is not in this exhibition just because it's a French-made aircraft. But again, like when Frontroom had this show originally in 2009, we remember very clearly when one of the passengers called, and we were slightly nervous because we weren't sure if they were going to start yelling at us for like doing an art exhibition about this like near-death experience, but she was calling to find out what to wear.
Yeah, she said she would wear her Sunday best. Yeah, but that exhibition, that was the first show we had of your work. And when you approached us about it, I thought it was a little Well, we didn't know where it was going to go with that. Like it was kind of on the edge. We were happy that everybody from well, not everybody, but most of the people who were on the flight, and even Captain Sullenberger, they were all okay with it, because we were afraid, wow, we're putting on an exhibition about, a plane crash, right? A famous plane crash, but it was a positive story and everybody was happy about it. But before the show went up, we weren't so sure how it was going to be perceived.
Yeah. Well, AIG didn't exactly love it at first.
Oh, now there's your story. So tell them about the lawyers telling you to cease and desist, or they were going to take your apartment and all this stuff.
So, so they, so I shot this as a commission with Weeks, but they were like super relaxed about it. They weren't worried about anybody's approval. They, it's like, yeah, we need the pictures, but go do what you need. And so I sent this out as a e-blast to my, to the editors and other people that I knew and everything. And New York Magazine actually wanted to run it. And it then got pulled by NTSB, which is the National Transit Safety Board, because it was still an ongoing investigation, and they got a little spooked that these images were out and about before they had like officially released anything. But
yeah, because the FBI and stuff was there on the boat with you, right?
Yeah, yep. But they were really apologetic about it. Actually, he was like, "Listen, this guy is like, trying to do his job. Can you just like release these images so he can like get them out to his, to these potential magazines?" And so NTSB released it, and they went back up on the website. But then I got a call from a lawyer that represents AIG, and this law firm. He got out of law school before I was born, and I'd gone to the website, and like his clients were American Express, Visa, this airline, and a few others. And he was claiming that because I was a subcontractor of the airline, I didn't have permission to have these photographs up. And I posted on my website, like a virtual post-it that just said, these photographs have been removed by AIG. If you want to, if you want to comment on them, here's the here's the phone number for US Airways, and here's the phone number for AIG. And it caused this giant backlash.
Wait, can I interject something? Just, this was 2009. This stock market had just crashed, and AIG was like, they were like the boogeyman. They had been responsible for a lot of this stuff. They had a lot of terrible press, and everybody hated AIG.
Yeah.
And here you are, this small photographer being taken on by like these guys. Okay, continue. Just had to interject.
Okay. So their answer from, when I asked where can I show these photographs, and they were like, to nobody, never, no one, to Mr. Mallon, how can we help you? And got that all resolved.
Well, when you put it up, you got a lot of people, it really grew legs, right?
Yes.
It was, I think they could see it was in danger of becoming this national story about them and their terrible business practices.
Yeah.
And they apologized to you. How nice.
Exactly. This was one of the images that got a lot of the attention because it was the first photographer inside the aircraft. So
wait, weren't you the only photographer inside the aircraft?
Well, there's probably been a photographer inside since. But yes, I was the only photographer actually that had access to the crash site. All the other press and everything were all behind barriers or up on the roof on the buildings along Chambers.
And I have to point out that you were kind of sneaky about this, right? Weren't you wearing like a Weeks Marine suit when you were there? And you're like, you didn't ask him if you could go on the plane, did you?
No. No, I did ask. I actually, when these photographs were done, this was actually a few weeks afterwards. And it's on barge in New Jersey at this point, and there's a ladder, and I saw people going in and out of the aircraft. You know, they were like pulling stuff out or, you know, putting cables and whatever. And so I asked the NTSB guy, it's like, can I go in and shoot? And he's like, yeah, sure. And I almost like said to him, are you sure? But I kept my mouth shut and just went up.
Also, like I said, weren't you wearing like a week's Marine jacket or something?
Well, I had a life jacket and a hard hat on at the crash site because they originally said, well, why don't you just meet us down there at the pier? And I was like, the cops are never going to let me by. Like, they're not going to believe you, and you're going to be too busy to like meet me. So if you can wait, let me come down and meet you in New Jersey, and I'll ride with you with the tugboat and the crane up to the site. And they're like, okay. And then, so I immediately drove over to New Jersey, had my brand new GPS that I was so psyched about, punched in the address, and immediately got lost. Because I had put in the address for their corporate office, not for the yard. And if you guys know the New Jersey Turnpike 19, Truck 19, whatever else it's called, intersection at like exit 14, next to the airport, I mean, it is such a clusterfuck. So they're like calling me like, Steve, where are you? Like, there's a crane waiting for you. But it all worked out. And so this was one of the first photographs that I shot when we arrived. And it's still one of my favorites because it just looks like this like wounded animal in the water. And, you know, like the blowhole is there in the ladder and they're like going down, you know, putting a little, it's going to be okay.
You know, I have to point out, Steve, that one of the concessions you had to give to AIG was that you had to erase the US air off of them, right?
We took
it out. Only on one that actually happened, but right?
Yeah, we took it out on one of the full body shots. I think it's 30,000 gallons.
And then US Airways went out of business and you can leave it on there now.
Exactly. And now they've made a film about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the JPEG for it, but yeah.
Yeah, it's strange concession for them. It was pretty well known, everything about what happened. Like, you weren't, again, doing some expose on this thing. You want to ask everybody what that is? Any guesses?
It's the tray. That's the cup holder.
Ah. Oh, wow.
So yeah. All right. Was there any other questions?
Is there any other question? What's next?
I am continuing to shoot the freight trains. I have a spot in New Jersey that I've been going to about once a week. I'm still trying to capture a couple more unique boxcars there. I think after about 3 really good images from the location, I like to move on. And at the moment, I'm at like 1.5. There's one locomotive that's like borderline for me, plus that one that's in the museum right now. It's called Undercutter. Here, let me pull it up for a second. There you go. Oh no, it's not here. So I'm continuing to shoot from this location. That's a little small, but you get the idea. But it's changed a lot. You know, it's like all the leaves are down now, so there's like a little bit more sky coming through, and I'm looking forward to shooting this in the snow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You had a residency too.
I did. I just had a residency out in Nevada for a week where I was able to photograph a number of these trains, and there's a possible exhibition coming, Daniel?
Sure. It's pretty much every 2 years, right? You think it's going to be ready before that?
Yeah, no, it's definitely gonna be ready. It's born ready. This is actually from last year. This is another one from out west. This is another one of the images from California. We didn't end up putting this one in the exhibition, but still, I love the interaction of the freight train and the background in this. Yeah, and then I've got there's one other potential commission that just came up that's connected to photographing some memorabilia from 9/11. That it looks like I'm going to be doing for the city of New York, and then that might be going to Photoville in September. So
Memorabilia.
yeah, it's these barriers that were at the original footprint, and loved ones had gone in and like carved in notes to people that were killed in the attack. And so the barriers need to be photographed before they degrade too much. So top secret though, don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
All right.
So yeah, thank you. I think this was great. So I guess there's now a lot of like things that I can direct you to. So you can go to Daniel to buy some art, some of those prints, and then I also that will be the Frontroom Gallery. But I also do want to talk one more time really quickly about our fundraiser, because so I'm going to put also a little link in the chat about it. There's still, as I said, we sold Steve's wonderful piece on day one, or right when the shop opened, but there is other amazing pieces still left. Yeah. And thank you everybody for coming, and thank you Daniel and Steve for doing this. And it will also go, I will just put it up live, and I will also put the recording up on the website for everybody who missed it.
Thank you very much.
Great, thanks.
All right.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Great work.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah. I forgot to say that there's also Sasha this weekend. Saturday. On Saturday, there's another talk. Sasha Mallon, actually Steve's wife.
Oh.
A museum show that we will visit live on Saturday at 2 p.m.
We were there this weekend. It's great. It's everybody go up to Woodstock and look at it, and also with Monica.
Right. Alrighty. See you Saturday, hopefully.
Bye.
Bye.